So Jen, the copies of the draft plans, are those available at the on the website?
Not right now. So they will be presented at the February meeting. So as soon as the
Okay.
packet's made available, I believe we posted online the Friday before our meeting. So you could access it that way. Otherwise, it's kind of officially, it's becomes available to the public at that point. And then as far as public hearings go, we actually already had 5? Is it 5? 4. Well, we have 4 in the evening and 1 during the day.
Right, yes, we
Yeah,
had
so we
5.
had 4 evening public hearings, and we do each of them in one of the particular census tracts throughout the city. So we had one at Prairie, we had one at Hamilton on the Park this year, we did one at Crystal View and one here at the city building, and then we always hold a special public hearing for all the social service agencies since we have the whole, is it because of consolidated social service? You could speak way better to that. But it was kind of back and forth. Some of our meetings we had really great comments, and other meetings nobody showed up. So we'll be looking at how to get more feedback from the public especially. So, but that makes your voices even more important because we haven't really heard as much as we'd hoped from the public yet.
Thanks, Jen. So are there any questions or comments on the schedule that's laid out for you on the summary sheet? You can see we're all already down to the halfway through the process, which is good. Okay, second item on the under the new business is the bylaws for the Community Development Commission. We've discussed these? Have we discussed these before?
It's been quite a while, actually, I think, since the bylaws have been looked at or amended. And from time to time, and I think it's actually probably been at least 9 or 10 years, but our legal department contacted all staff and said that all boards and commissions had to update the bylaws. So you will see what I did is the additions that our legal department asked us, I have added and they're underlined. So starting, I think, on the second page, under Article 3, Meetings, under Section 8, originally it just said that the agenda for each meeting and the order of business shall be as follows. And so we had to change that, and so it's unless a majority of the board members present agree to alter the order of business, and additions to the agenda shall not be made unless properly noticed per the Open Meetings Act. So that's the first change and update that we have to do. The second one is on page that starts, it says call to order, roll call. It's the agenda. We now we need to include actual approval of minutes, and also, in addition to the petitions and communications, we now have to include audience participation. In the past, petitions and communications was written and oral, but now we have to separate out. So petitions and communications is anything that's written, and then right after that, we are including audience participation, where someone actually will come up and they will talk. So starting next month, the agenda will show, if you approve these, they will show the new changes. So, and then under adjournment, it has listed this paragraph where members of the public shall have up to 5 minutes each for input during audience participation. It shall be the prerogative of the chairperson to extend the 5-minute time limit if more than 10 individuals seek to provide public input during petitions and communications. Actually, this should say audience participation. Then the chairperson shall have the authority to reduce the 5-time minute to 3 minutes. All public input shall be limited to topics germane to those described on the agenda for that particular meeting. No member of the commission is obligated to respond to anything in someone's public input. So this was new language that came from our legal department. So this will be changed. And then I believe that, so it's just a few sections that we need to update and amend. So I'll turn it over to you then. Any questions?
Kelly,
or-
I'm looking at Article 2 Officers, Section 1. We don't have a formally appointed vice chair. It's been our practice just to have the person with seniority on the commission serve as vice chair in the absence of the chair. I guess not serve as vice chair, but serve to run the meeting in the absence of the chair. We had a long discussion about this, and I don't know if you remember this, Kelly, but we decided at that point that we were comfortable with that practice, but this doesn't, this is a different recommendation from what we've
Okay.
practiced in the past.
It's possible that these, since this is like 10 years old, that this may not be the most update one from then. So, but I can certainly cross out that last sentence.
Or we could
if
just
that's-
agree that this will be a formal procedure rather than the more informal procedure that we typically follow.
Honestly, I don't know if there's any difference either way. I guess it's what the commission would like to do.
And then that same article, Section 2, that's also not been our practice. We've had a chair that serves, and we haven't elected, reappointed, or limited the term of the chair.
Mm-hmm.
Well, am I reading? We don't actually appoint the chair, right? The mayor appoints the chair, is in section
That's
1.
what I was thinking, is this is actually language pertaining to the mayor.
So in section 2, then the mayor can reappoint the same chair repeatedly. But it does allow for the more informal thing. It talks about based upon interest and length of tenure on the commission be recommended. The only thing that we didn't do is we just sort of said that's what it'll be, and this says by majority vote under here. So, or if we could choose to appoint a permanent vice chair. So, to me, if we were going to make it fit what has been done, it would just be removing shall be recommended. I don't know, something, I don't know if it could just be recommended and take out the by majority vote part.
Or we could just leave that in and do it.
Yeah, that would be the other.
I think it may make a difference. It depends on what they mean by absence. And normally that means something more than not being at a specific meeting. That would be like if someone was ill and was not
Okay.
going to be there for a period of time. I think usually at meetings it's a little more informal.
Mhm.
And I know in the past, like you said, sometimes we were down to the third seniority on the chair, just depending upon who was here and who wasn't, sort of a thing, yeah. And that always seemed to serve the purpose pretty well. But I would agree on that reappointed for 3-year terms. I think that's since we all serve 3-year terms, if the mayor selects to have the same person be chair, then that would automatically be cycled every 3 years, like what Fred said.
Mhm. So, so you'd like us to approve this and submit this to you, or do you want to look at it and give us a revised version?
Whatever your pleasure is. If you would like me to look into making some of these changes and bringing it back, I can certainly do that. Or if you want to go ahead and approve it as is, whatever you would like to do.
Or you could approve it with changes if you had something you knew the commission wanted to change in there.
Yeah, we could approve
Similar
it
to the
with
way
changes.
that is
Yeah.
done for, a motion for
Mhm.
some
Yeah.
other agenda item.
So you could do that with the changes, and I would make the changes, and I could send it all to you then when the changes are made.
Okay.
I also got another question in there. On section 8, that portion that you were reading about the changes there, the call to order, that section there. The approval of the minutes, that's something we've always had in there.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be a change.
No, it just stated minutes of previous
Oh,
meeting.
okay.
It didn't say necessarily
It didn't say
approval, so I
approval in the past.
clarified that it was approval of the minutes,
Then my
yeah.
other question would be item H there, where it says study session. Now,
Mhm.
that's not something we've ever had on the agenda. What exactly do they mean
I think we did. I think we called it a study session, but it was on fair housing, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, this calls for that as being a regular agenda item, or is that merely indicating where that would be if there was a study session? That it would be after new business? Is that
Mhm.
what it's saying? Because it says the agenda for each meeting and the order of business shall be as follows.
Yeah, so it probably should be included on the agenda
So it
then.
would be on the agenda, and if we actually had something under that subject, just like old business
Mhm.
and new business, okay.
Yes, so, yeah.
I mean, I think if, with Chris's comment that the interpretation of the absence isn't just being gone one meeting, it would be more if Fred was going to be gone for a month, you know, for several months, that we would need to do that more formal process. Then,
Okay.
I don't think we need to make any adjustment to that based on this. And so the only thing is just that typographical, where it says petitions and communications, and it needs to say audience participation. Is that enough to say that it needs to be approved as amended, or is that minor enough that it's not, it's just a grammatical fix? Or it's not really, it's not grammar, but when you were reading where.
Oh, that paragraph below
Yeah.
that should say,
To provide public input during audience participation.
I think it's customary to make a motion to approve the proposed bylaws with the suggested changes or something to that effect.
Okay.
Yeah, that's generally what we would do for some other agenda items that the commission
Okay.
considers.
Okay, so are we in agreement just to change that to audience participation? We decided not to change Section 1 and Section 2 under Article 2, which describes the appointment of an acting chair. I'm comfortable with that. Are there any other items that we'd like to discuss? I didn't see anything else here that isn't what we already are comfortable with and follows our practice, so,
Okay, I didn't see anything either,
yeah.
although I haven't been here as long.
Okay, well, sometimes that's not helpful. Okay, so is there a motion to accept the revised bylaws with revisions as noted?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The motion passes. Thank you.
thank you.
The third item of new business is a resolution approving modifications to the City of Urbana and Urbana Home Consortium fiscal year 2014-2015 annual action plan. So we have information in the packet about that. Kelly, that's a memo from you. Do you want to give us background information?
Actually, I'll just let Jen
Okay, Jen.
talk about it.
I
since-
don't get an introduction?
Yes,
No, just kidding.
Jen Gonzalez, home
Jen.
coordinator.
Jen, would you like to give us the background
Oh,
information?
sure, I'd be delighted. Okay, so this is an amendment for the current fiscal year's annual action plan. We had previously allocated the entirety of our home entitlement to whole house rehabilitation, which is the owner-occupied rehab program that Randy Burgett operates. We have noticed within the last couple of years that it's really slowed down. I think there's several factors for that. Probably the main one being the loss of Connie Eldridge, administrative assistant extraordinaire. And so our marketing isn't what it quite used to be. And she also just had a way of communicating with people over the phone. It was just amazing. So I try, but I know I don't succeed in matching her qualities there. So I think marketing's an issue, but it's also an issue of a lot of homes still have active liens on them. And so if somebody calls, and they're looking to get some work done on their house, they actually have a lien on their house that's from 20 years ago, and they've conveniently forgotten that they've already participated in the program, and we kind of have to inform them that, sorry, you're not eligible. And so we're running into that a lot. So part of it may also be because we have limited the program itself to just those community development target areas, so different block groups, which now that the new census is out, we're actually looking at revising that. But so there's consideration being given to actually expanding the program. But while we're making all these decisions and trying to figure out what the new target area would look like, we need to always make sure that we're spending our money in a timely manner, so that we're not running up against any HUD deadlines as far as commitments go. So the proposal that's on the table is to instead move the $158,000 and change that was previously allocated for owner-occupied housing rehab to the city redevelopment programs language that is in just the City of Urbana section. So there's several different activities that are in here, but really what we're intending is to use this for to continue the Urbana Dream down payment assistance program. It's been going really well. We've done 19 so far. So the first round of 10 went by in a snap. That was great. And then we applied for funds from the Federal Home Loan Bank of Chicago, and we were awarded $58,000. And so that helped augment, and we put a little bit of our money in there too. And we've completed 9 of those 10 projects. So there's just one left, and that one's through Busey Bank. So this proposal also throws in some program income that we got this year. So those liens that I had mentioned that we had before, on people's homes from past projects, when those get paid off as people sell their homes, that's called program income. And so we had a home that was sold, and so that's what that 12.5 additional funding is, which I don't know that I actually numbered the pages, but it's it's basically on the last page there of the memo. So all that said, the proposal would fund 17 down payment grants. They're actually deferred loans. So the program is structured in such a way that folks receive up to 10% down payment assistance based on the purchase price, and then they have to live in the home for 5 years. And that's just standard language that's imposed by the federal statutes that regulate the program. And so this, I'm hoping I'm considering opening it up to all lenders. That's how it's being proposed. That was how we originally created and designed the program. We thought the money would move quicker that way, and it did. Although it was new, so there were a lot more hiccups the first round. So, but opening up again, it would be open to all lenders. And actually, there have been some changes with some of the loan regulations that are out there, and Chris might have a better handle on this, but I know that Habitat has to follow the same rules as regular lenders and banks do now. And so that would actually make them eligible to participate in my program because they have to do all the same paperwork and follow all the same laws. So that's actually good. That might help us commit the money more quickly, since I know that they have homes that they are constructing that we don't have anything to do with, but their buyers would be able to apply for down payment assistance. So we're hoping that this will move the money quickly and keep us in line with our commitments. It may be one of several amendments that I bring to you as we continue to assess our financial situation and make sure that we're staying on top of this as a consortium. So I think that's the gist of it. If there are questions, I know this is kind of a lot. And just bear in mind, this only impacts this fiscal year's funds. We have carryover. So Randy has 3 active whole house rehabs that he's doing now. That was definitely shy of the 7 to 9 I was hoping we would get to this year. Granted, we're a little more than halfway through the fiscal year. So there is a 4th applicant that he is processing right now. But still, that's not moving quick enough, I don't think, to meet our goals before the end of the year.
Sorry, can I ask?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to ask if there's a plan to remarket the owner rehabilitation program, or with the new census data and the blocks out.
I would say yes, if we actually change it significantly. So if we were to open it citywide, which is one of the ideas that's been tossed around, then yes, we would have to market it because all those people in the neighborhoods that formerly were excluded from participating would now be allowed to participate. So we would have to do some sort of special flyer. The way we market it right now is through our neighborhood newsletter. And we used to publish that 3 times a year, and now we're just doing it twice. So it's not very far off, but I think that third one had a lot more because, okay, so in the spring and the fall, our newsletter is mostly dedicated towards advertising for our neighborhood cleanup. And so that's when people can kind of dump their junk as long as they live in the targeted area. That third one that we're no longer doing really just kind of offered extra information and other things for people to consider in terms of programs they might qualify for that maybe they didn't now that they're seniors and they weren't before, that whole thing. So we'll have to do some sort of a push if we hope for the program to actually keep afloat. So it's a good program. It's just, I think it needs to be restructured and remarketed maybe. So, yeah.
So if Fred were here, he would ask you if there were any implications to the general budget, or is this just a shifting of funds?
So if you looked at just this fiscal year's budget, it wouldn't change anything. It would just change, the line item name. However, down the road, there is obviously a loss of future program income. So this money would normally, in $12,500 increments, eventually, hopefully make it back, assuming the house doesn't go through foreclosure or there's 3 different quitclaim deeds and now nobody knows who owns the property kind of thing, which happens as well. So there is a loss of future program income. But I think based on the staff capacity that we're at, we're actually struggling to manage the money as it's coming in now and find projects to dump it into quickly enough. So it's always a moving target. There are some years where we'll get $30,000 of program income and then some years where we get none. And so I don't think it'll be a problem. I mean, I say that, and 10 years later, the next grant coordinator will be like, that fool, Jen Gonzalez, messed up our future funds. So I hope that's not the case. But I think doing the down payment program is great right now just because the lending restrictions are so tight. People really want to put down that 20% in order to avoid the private mortgage insurance. There's just, I don't think there are as many resources out there right now. And Chris, you can jump in at any time here.
Sure. No, you're exactly right with that. That's been a very attractive program, and it's helped, I think, Urbana a lot be looked at, especially for some first-time home buyers and lower-income people, as a level playing field with the surrounding communities. It helps to do that quite a bit. And there is a tremendous impact, as you're saying, that PMI, the mortgage insurance, that is up for everybody. Some of that cost came out of the health care funding that's being paid for partially by that. So there's boosts there. And it takes very little for a lot of folks in that particular income bracket buying those houses to have just a little bit more PMI and a little bit more property taxes, and next thing they don't quite qualify for the mortgage, whereas being able to bring that down like that is tremendous. I think it's probably a good idea to put it out to everyone. Busey does a great job with loans because they understand them all, so theirs are always about the smoothest. But there are a lot of other lenders working in the area too, and I think you would find those 17 disappear pretty quickly. And it's all good because it's going in there, and there usually is a lot of recovery off of those proportionately. I think there's not too many of those that go bad by comparison. So
Yeah.
I think it'd be a great thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just noticed a lot of the financing that's out there for these sorts, like for any sort of affordable housing, tends to be geared more towards rental. So it's tax credits from the state or however, many other projects are out there. And so I think right now it's especially important to actually continue to provide opportunities for homeownership.
Many of the homes that folks are buying in that bracket, now if it's a Habitat, and I think that's great that Habitat would qualify, those are brand new homes and they're not a problem to finance. But many of the homes that folks are looking at in, again, those price ranges, you can't do FHA on them and you can't do other things because the quality of the home is not sufficient to get it appraised for that. Being able to buy that down, so to speak, with a larger down payment to a conventional loan, may be the only way they can actually get into that. So that's a super program, yeah.
Yeah, in some small sense, it actually does help with the housing stock quality, because our inspectors do go through each and every one of these homes, and they cite all of the code violations that are present, and then usually it's negotiated between the seller and the buyer who ends up paying for it. But so there are some issues that have come up that have been more serious, that have been rectified through our grant.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
it can be creatively done because the seller can afford to do it if they're going to be able to sell the house for a little bit more, which that can help with too. So it can cure some definite problems, yeah.
Are there any more comments from the commission about the information that Jen provided, these modifications? If not, we have several options. We can forward this resolution as written. We can make some changes. We can decide not to forward. Do I hear a motion for one of those options?
I would move that we forward the resolution as written to City Council with a recommendation for approval.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor of forwarding this resolution as written, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Are there other items for our agenda this evening? From
No, there's
staff?
not. No other items.
Well, then I want to formally welcome our two new commissioners. Our meetings are usually a little longer than this, so don't get your hopes up. It was short and sweet this time, but it's nice to have you with us, and we're pleased that we're going to have your perspective and your input for the commission, so welcome. Nice to have you. With that, I will adjourn. Do I have to have a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Thank you, Janice. Is there a second? Second, okay. We're adjourned.